Hey everybody, it's Wednesday, February 10th, 2020. Today we're going to talk about how the stimulus checks are going to make the bubbles bigger. Yes, believe it or not. And we're going to talk about why that is. But first let's talk about who's getting the stimulus checks, who qualifies. And what you're going to find out is it's a lot of people that don't necessarily need the money. A lot of people that are making $50,000 to $100,000 are still going to get this check. So for example, if you're making $75,000 or $150,000 for a couple, a married couple, you will still qualify for the check. And a lot of those people may not have debt to pay off, so they're going to go out, and the speculation is they're going to go out and put this in the crypto market, the stock market, and because of that you're going to see the bubbles get even bigger. So first let's talk about who's getting the checks, and for this let's go to an interview. And this was a recent interview that was put out on CNBC.com. Let's take a listen.
Included by some Democrats is to phase out checks for individuals making more than $50,000 a year. You called that proposal unbelievable and said, quote, in other words, working class people who got checks from Trump would not get them from Biden. Brilliant. Obviously, you're being sarcastic there. It's clear you don't support it. You heard Janet Yellen earlier in the show. She said, obviously, she thinks that somebody who makes $60,000 a year should be getting these relief checks, but she wasn't willing to commit to $75,000. Where do you think the cutoff should be?
Well, I think what we have done in the past and what we have promised the American people, we've said two things in the last month. We said we're going to get you $2,000, and that's $600 plus $1,400. And what we're going to do is say that everybody, a single person, individual, $75,000 or lower, and a couple of $150,000 or lower will be eligible for that full $2,000, $600 plus $1,400. Now, when people said we don't want rich people to get that benefit, I understand that. I agree. And what we need to do is have a strong cliff so it doesn't kind of spill over to people making $300,000. And that's what I support, and that's what I think most people understand. But to say to a worker in Vermont or California or any place else that if you're making, $52,000 a year, you are too rich to get this help, the full benefit, I think that that's absurd. And it's also, from a political point of view, a little bit absurd that you would have under Trump these folks getting the benefit, but under Biden, who is fighting hard for the working class of this country, they would not get that full benefit. So I think from a policy point of view, we've got to do the right thing, and that's $75,000 and $150,000 for a couple. From a political point of view, it is absurd to be telling working class people, somebody who has a decent union job, they're making $55,000, $60,000, sorry, you're not eligible for the program. Makes no sense to me at all, nor do I think it makes sense to the American people.
All right, so there you have it. That was obviously Bernie Sanders. Now, I know a lot of people, you may love, you may hate, the certain people that are controlling the votes here, who gets the money. But the sad truth is, people now, millions of people are dependent on lawmakers to send out these checks. All right? Now, again, my stance, I always want to make it clear. I know that these stimulus checks are not going to be the solution, right? It's a Band-Aid on a broken leg. Until you stop the money printing in the background and the inflation and the rising prices created from the money printing, stimulus checks are never going to fix the problem. They may delay the inevitable bust, and they may delay a few people becoming homeless or a few people getting their electricity shut off for a while, but it's not going to be a long-term solution. So this time next year, unless the money printing stops, this time next year we're going to be talking about $3,000 stimulus checks. And the year after that, $6,000 stimulus checks. You see where we're going here? So as long as the bubbles keep inflating, as long as the inflation keeps being pumped out there, it's going to be more bigger stimulus checks. And pretty soon it's going to be UBI every month payouts. So essentially monthly stimulus checks, aka UBI. All right, so this is where we're at. Doesn't mean that I think it's the solution, but it's what's happening, so we need to talk about it. But here's the big issue in my opinion here, and you heard that couples making up to $150,000 are still likely going to get this check unless something changes. Well, a lot of people are out of debt, especially when you look at that income category, And guess what? They're probably going to go put this money into investments because most people are realizing you put it into a checking account, you're hardly going to get anything. What's the APY now, annual percentage yield, for a checking account? It's less than 1%, right? So most people are saying, hey, I'm not going to just leave my money in the bank. I'm going to put it in stocks. I'm going to put it in cryptos because people just expect that this is the new normal, that markets are always going to rise. So they're going to put their money into these markets and try to get a bigger return. And I've seen several economists out there saying the same thing. Legendary investor Jerry Grantham says Biden's 1.9 trillion stimulus package plan would make the stock market bubble even worse. Right? What do we see with a lot of these day traders, people on Robinhood? They went out and they put their checks into the stock market, and in some cases, they created a short squeeze in certain stocks that we talked about. And it's pretty insane because people think that this is going to last forever and that there's not going to be a change in direction. Right? Endless money creation, endless rising prices, endless asset bubbles, no pullback, no correction, right? No more boom and bust cycles. I don't think that's true, but a lot of people are just going all in, and when they get some extra money, they're going to go ahead and put it into these markets because they feel that there's going to be never-ending inflation and rising prices. Now, Jeremy Grantham says that's not true. He says this is going to make the inevitable bust even worse. Worse than anything we've ever seen. Just type in the title here that you're seeing and you'll find this article. And Grantham said in this article, quote, if it's as big as they talk about, this would be a very good making of a top for that market, just of the kind of the history books would enjoy. And he continues, quote, we will have a few weeks of extra money and a few weeks of putting your last desperate chips into the game, and then an even more spectacular bust, unquote. And when you think about it, it may not just be the people that are in the upper income brackets that are going to be using these checks to put into the markets. It may be people that are living paycheck to paycheck that don't have to pay their rent right now because they're getting free rent. There's the eviction moratorium. And when you get several months behind on rent, you feel like there's no extra options, or there's no options besides just gambling the money to try to make up because you're so far behind, you're so far in debt, and you know that a checking account and a savings account with the 0.5% of a return is not going to get you out of that hole. Then you're going to be likely to go with the Hail Mary, right? The Hail Mary, the desperate last-ditch effort to try to make a huge return on your money by putting it in the markets, right? So how many of these people that are several months behind on rents, and it's tens of millions of people, how many of those people feel so desperate now they're just going to gamble their money, put it into the markets, put it into this crypto, put it into that crypto, maybe try to catch one of these short squeezes in the stock market to try to dig themselves out of this massive hole, right? It's possible. We're living in unprecedented times. I know some of these things sound extraordinary, but this is the reality, and a lot of people agree with what's going to be happening here. The stimulus checks and then bust. We'll have to see how it plays out. Everybody stay well, stay safe, stay prepared. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments. What will you be doing with your stimulus check? I hear from a lot of people they're just going to pay off debt. A lot of people are going to go spend it at the multinational corporations. Therefore, it's just going to go to the countries that manufacture most of the goods in these stores, like Asian countries. Maybe you're listening. Maybe you're going to go put this into the markets and try to do that Hail Mary pass. Let me know. Thanks, everybody. Stay well, stay safe, stay prepared. Bye for now. Peace.